All right. Ready to embrace your power.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into John Wheeler's Shining in Plain View today,
Okay.
unpacking this whole concept of non-duality.
All right.
The book basically says, hey, you're already perfect,
Right.
just as you are.
It's a pretty radical concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Wheeler, he just approaches it
Yeah.
in such a refreshing way.
Yeah.
He avoids getting all bogged down
Uh-huh.
in that intellectual jargon,
Right.
and instead just guides us through direct experience.
Yeah, exactly. He uses all those stories and questions
Yes.
to kind of point us toward this
Yeah.
ever-present awareness
Mm.
that he says is our true nature.
Yeah.
There's one story that really stuck with me
Okay.
about someone experiencing the world without identifying with, like,
Yeah.
their thoughts or feelings.
Wow.
They called it presence awareness.
Interesting.
And it's fascinating how this ties into the book's emphasis on simplicity.
Yeah.
It's not about all those complicated practices
right.
or achieving some distant goal or whatever.
Totally. Yeah. It dismantles that whole idea
Yeah.
that enlightenment is this complex or far off thing.
Right.
Wheeler just brings us back
Yeah.
to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying things like,
Yeah.
things happen simply and easily, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
He's basically saying, stop resisting. Just be.
Okay, so that brings us to like a core concept in the book.
Okay.
This illusion of separation.
Right.
You know, that feeling that there's a me separate from the world, which, as the book points out,
Yeah.
is the root of so much suffering.
Wheeler uses this powerful analogy
Yeah.
to illustrate this.
Okay.
He talks about the cognizer and the cognizer. Basically, he's saying we fall into the trap of thinking that there's a separate I observing the world.
Yeah.
But what if the observer and the observed are actually one and the same? This raises a big question that the book tackles head on, you know, like if there's no separation, then where does that feeling of loneliness come from?
He has this this really insightful passage
Okay.
where he says,
Yeah.
loneliness arises through belief in separation.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, mind blown.
Yeah.
If we're already connected to everything,
Right.
then why do we feel so alone?
Yeah. It's a big question.
What really stands out to me is how this
Yeah.
this challenges like our
Yeah.
entire way of thinking
Right.
about ourselves and the world.
Absolutely. The book pushes us to question
Yeah.
that fundamental assumption
Yeah.
of a separate self.
Right.
There's actually a part where someone asks, if
Mhm.
everything is arising within awareness,
Mm-hmm.
what does that say about the nature of reality itself?
Oh, wow.
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
And the book encourages us to really explore it.
So if this separate self is an illusion,
Okay.
then what about our thoughts?
Right.
The book has this whole section
Yeah.
on how you are not your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
which initially sounds kind of strange.
I can see that.
I mean, aren't our thoughts like
Yeah.
a part of who we are?
That's where the book gets really interesting.
Oh.
It dives into this whole relationship
Yeah.
between awareness and thoughts,
Uh-huh.
pointing out that we're not our thoughts,
Okay.
but rather the space in which they arise.
Interesting.
Have you ever noticed how thoughts just seem to pop into your head?
Yeah, totally.
Like from nowhere?
Yeah.
The book really nails that experience.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really empowering.
Okay.
If we're not our thoughts,
Yeah.
then we don't have to be ruled by them.
Right.
We can like start to observe them
Mm-hmm.
without getting caught up in their stories and dramas.
Exactly. It's like realizing you're the sky and thoughts are just clouds
Uh-huh.
passing through.
Yeah.
They come and go,
Right.
but the sky remains.
I like that.
Yeah, this is a key point because
yeah.
it helps us break free from
Yeah.
that constant mental chatter
Mm-hmm.
and experience more peace.
Okay, so we've talked about the illusion of separation,
Right.
the nature of thoughts, and the feeling of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
But the book doesn't just like present these concepts.
Yeah.
It also offers some practical guidance.
Okay.
There's a part where someone is struggling
Mhm.
with negative thoughts
Yeah.
and asks, how do I stop these thoughts from
Yeah.
controlling my life?
That's a big one.
Yeah, what's Wheeler's response to that?
Well, he offers this really
Go.
simple but powerful piece of advice. He
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
settle in with what is clear, present, and obvious.
Hmm. Interesting.
He's not advocating for, like,
Yeah.
suppressing thoughts or
Right.
engaging in,
Complicated mental gymnastics.
Oh,
Instead, he's pointing us back
right.
to the present moment,
Yeah.
to the direct experience of awareness.
It's like he's saying, stop fighting with your thoughts
Mhm.
and just be present with what is.
Yeah.
This brings us to
Okay.
another key concept,
Right.
the idea that we are already
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeking.
Wheeler talks about how the answer is the fact of your own being.
Wow.
Instead of searching for happiness or
Yeah.
fulfillment
Yeah.
outside of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
he encourages us to turn our attention inward,
Okay.
to recognize that awareness
Yeah.
that's already present.
So instead of asking, who am I?
Right.
We should be asking, what am I?
Exactly.
And looking for the answer in our direct experience.
Precisely. And that's where things get really
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
Because when we start to look for this self
Mm-hmm.
that's supposedly separate, we
Uh-huh.
realize
Yeah.
we can't actually find it. It's like trying to grasp a handful of water.
Yeah.
It just slips through your fingers.
Exactly.
But if there's no separate self,
Right.
then who is having these experiences?
Ooh.
That's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our Embrace Your Power journey.
I can't wait.
All right, see you next time.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If there's no separate self,
Yeah.
then who or what is
Yeah.
having these experiences?
Yeah.
Wheeler, he kind of dives into this
Okay.
by talking about presence awareness,
Okay.
which he describes as
Yeah.
the backdrop of all experience.
Okay.
It's not a thing,
Right.
not an entity,
Okay.
but rather this
Yeah.
pure knowing
Okay,
that's
right.
always present.
So it's like the stage
Yes.
upon which the play of life unfolds.
Yeah.
The actors come and go,
Right.
but the stage remains.
That's a great analogy. And this awareness,
Yeah.
it's not something we achieve. It's what we fundamentally are.
Okay.
Wheeler uses this phrase,
Oh.
you are the one that is awake, no one else.
Now, I know that phrase can be
Yeah,
a bit tricky
I understand.
because it might sound like some people are more
Oh,
awake than others,
right.
which isn't what he's saying at all.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not about
Right.
spiritual elitism or
Right.
judging anyone's level of awareness or whatever.
Right.
What he's pointing to is that
Yeah.
awareness itself is awake, and we're all expressions of that awareness. It's like saying the sun is shining,
Yeah.
whether or not we're looking at it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then why do some people seem
Yeah.
more tuned into this awareness than others?
Right, right.
Is it just a matter of, like,
Yeah.
quieting the mind?
That's definitely a part of it.
Okay.
But Wheeler goes a little deeper.
Okay.
He talks about the ego,
Yeah.
that sense of me that feels separate and
Right.
how it's actually based on a misunderstanding
Okay.
of our true nature.
Mhm.
It's this
Yeah.
clinging to the idea
Okay.
of a separate self
Yeah.
that creates all the problems.
Right.
He has this powerful line where he says,
Yeah.
the central character is utterly non-existent.
I love that. It
Yeah.
really gets to the heart of it.
It does.
This me that we think we are,
Right.
it's just a phantom,
Yeah,
a story we tell ourselves.
exactly.
And the book is encouraging us
Yeah.
to wake up from that dream.
Right. And one of the ways we do that is by questioning our beliefs.
Okay.
Wheeler suggests that
Mhm.
even beliefs that we think are
Yeah.
helpful
Uh,
or positive
Yeah.
can sometimes create
Right.
separation and suffering.
Okay.
He encourages us to ask ourselves,
Uh.
are these beliefs truly serving me,
Mm-hmm.
or are they just creating more conflict?
That's so important.
It is.
It's about taking ownership
Yeah.
of our beliefs,
Mhm.
realizing that they're not
Right.
absolute truths,
Yeah.
but rather perspectives
Exactly.
we can choose to hold or let go of.
Speaking of letting go,
Yeah.
one of the things I found most liberating
Okay.
about this book
Mm-hmm.
is the emphasis on effortless being.
Okay.
It's like Wheeler saying,
Yep.
stop trying so hard. You're already perfect, just as you are.
That resonates with me too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's easier said than done.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
Our minds are so used to
Yeah.
striving and seeking.
They are.
So how do we actually access
Right.
this state of effortless being?
Wheeler, he doesn't advocate for
Yeah.
specific techniques,
Okay.
practices.
Right.
Instead, he points us back
Yeah.
to the simplicity
Okay.
of presence awareness. He
Mhm.
says, remember, the presence awareness is open
Okay.
clear, and available.
Right.
It's not something we create.
Right.
It's what we already are.
It's like taking off a pair of sunglasses.
Yes.
And finally seeing clearly.
Exactly.
It's such a simple shift.
It is.
But it has the power to
Yeah.
transform our entire experience.
Exactly. And this ties back to that idea of embracing our power.
Okay.
It's not about gaining more power,
Right.
but rather recognizing
Mhm.
the power that we already have as awareness itself.
This whole conversation is really making me think about the source of true happiness.
Okay.
We're so conditioned to believe
Right.
that happiness comes from external things, achievements, possessions, relationships.
Right.
But what if,
Yeah.
as the book suggests, happiness is actually our natural state?
That's the radical proposition that Wheeler puts forth.
Okay.
He says, your own being is the heart of the matter.
Wow.
He's pointing us back to the source of joy and peace that's already within us.
That's a beautiful idea.
It is.
But it can be hard to grasp.
Whoa.
Especially when we're bombarded with messages that tell us we need to acquire more things or achieve certain milestones to be happy.
I get it.
How do we reconcile those competing messages?
Wheeler, he doesn't shy away from that challenge.
Right.
He talks about how the mind can create a sense of lack and incompleteness, even when we have glimpses of our true nature as awareness. He compares it to wearing a mask and forgetting that our true face is already beautiful.
It's like we've been conditioned to believe that we're not good enough and we need to strive for something outside ourselves to be whole.
Yeah.
But the book is saying, no, you're already complete just as you are.
And that brings us to a really practical piece of advice that he offers. He says, refuse to believe false concepts.
Interesting.
This isn't about, denying reality or pretending that problems don't exist. It's about questioning those beliefs that create suffering and realizing that they're not absolute truths, but rather stories our minds have created.
That's a powerful point.
It is.
But what about those really sticky thoughts and feelings that keep pulling us back into that sense of separation?
I see what you mean.
Even after having moments of clarity, it can feel like we're constantly battling with our minds.
Yeah, that's real.
How do we deal with that?
Wheeler, he acknowledges that the mind can be quite persistent. He uses this analogy of a wild horse that's been tamed, but still has the potential to bolt. He encourages us to be patient with ourselves. And to keep returning to the basics. Reminding ourselves of the truth of our being, even when it seems like we've strayed. He says, you never leave
I love that. It's such a simple,
It is.
profound reminder.
It is.
That no matter how lost we might feel, we're never truly separate from our true nature.
And that's where the book really shines. It offers a path back to that state. Not through complicated practices or techniques, but through a simple shift in perspective. It's about recognizing that the peace and joy we're seeking are already present, waiting to be discovered.
And that's a perfect segue to what I think is one of the most mind-blowing concepts in the book.
All right, let's hear it.
The 1-2 punch. What exactly is that?
It's Wheeler's method for dismantling the illusion of the separate self. First, you look for the self that's supposedly suffering. Where is it? What are its attributes? Can you actually find it?
And the second punch is the realization that, hey, there's actually no one there to suffer in the first place.
Exactly. It's so simple, yet so profound. And it has the power to completely shift our relationship with suffering.
This whole embrace your power journey is starting to feel like a real game changer.
It is.
But one thing I'm still curious about is how we can actually live from this understanding in our everyday lives. How do we integrate this awareness into our relationships, our work, our interactions with the world?
That's a great question.
That's what we'll be exploring
Awesome.
in the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah, that's a That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that the book addresses beautifully.
Okay.
You see, realizing that you are not a separate self doesn't mean, checking out of life or becoming indifferent.
Right.
It's actually the opposite.
So it's not about escaping the world,
right,
but rather engaging with it in a whole new way.
Exactly. Wheeler talks about how this realization can actually make us more compassionate, more present, and more effective in our actions.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if we're not so caught up in our own stories and dramas, we're more available to connect with others and respond to situations with clarity.
Right. It's about acting from a place of wholeness rather than from a sense of lack or deficiency.
Okay, but how does that actually play out in real life?
Yeah.
There's a part in the book where someone asks about how to deal with difficult emotions.
Yeah.
Like anger or sadness.
Right.
From a non-dual perspective.
That's where the idea of don't refuse to be what you are comes in.
All right.
Wheeler explains that this doesn't mean pretending that negative emotions don't exist or trying to suppress them.
Right.
It's about recognizing that they are simply appearances within consciousness, not something that can define us or limit who we truly are.
So it's about allowing those emotions to be there without getting swept away by them.
Precisely. It's like watching clouds pass through the sky.
Okay.
We can observe them without getting attached or identifying with them.
This whole idea of observing without judgment seems really key.
It is.
I'm thinking about a passage where Wheeler talks about how all problems and doubts are for a phantom.
Right.
It's like he's saying that the problems we're so worried about only exist because we're clinging to this idea of a separate self.
That's a powerful insight.
It is.
It's like realizing that we're fighting shadows when we see through the illusion of the separate self. The whole structure of problems and solutions, it collapses.
So it's not about denying the reality of challenges, but rather shifting our perspective on them.
Exactly.
Seeing them as opportunities for growth and learning rather than threats to our well-being.
And that's where true freedom lies.
Okay.
It's not about escaping difficulties, but rather meeting them with an open heart and a clear mind.
Okay, but what about those times when we inevitably get caught up in the drama?
Right.
I mean, we're human after all.
Of course.
We're bound to slip back into old patterns of thinking and reacting.
Wheeler acknowledges that this is a natural part of the process.
Okay.
He encourages us to be patient with ourselves and to keep returning to the present moment.
Okay.
He says, presence awareness remains clear, rock solid, and beyond doubt.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like having a safe haven.
It is.
We can always return to.
Right.
No matter how stormy the seas might get.
And the more we practice coming back to this awareness, the stronger and more stable it becomes.
This whole embrace your power journey has been so illuminating.
It has.
It's really shifted my perspective on what it means to live a truly fulfilling life.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the power that we already have as awareness itself.
It's about letting go of the seeking and the striving and embracing the fullness of this present moment.
It's like Wheeler's saying, stop looking for happiness out there. It's right here within you.
And the most beautiful thing is that this realization is available to everyone.
It is.
It's not reserved for, a select few, but rather a birthright that's waiting to be claimed.
It is there for the taking.
So for everyone listening, I encourage you to take a moment right now to connect with that awareness that's always present within you. It's the source of your power, your joy, and your freedom.
Beautiful.
Let it shine brightly and light up the world.
That's it.
And that's our Embrace Your Power session for today.
That's all.
Until next time.
See you then.
Keep shining.